How's it going, YouTube? Coming today with another video, and today, guys, what the brand new is a mid-season banlist prediction. Now, I know this video is a little early, but I really want to make this video so I can make a video at the end of the format and really be able to show you exactly how a format can change so much that it can change people's thought processes on what cards should be hit and what decks should really be hit too. Because I feel like there's just so many different predictions that I see where people are really focused on the end of the format decks versus the format as a whole. And I think that's a mistake because I feel like there's so many different cards in the format. Even if you look at like it's never really prevalent at the end of a format. It's only really good toward the beginning because there's a lot of decks that haven't really been figured out. There's a lot of combos that haven't been figured out. So even right now at mid-season, the only deck that you really see Scythe locking anymore is going to be the P.U.N.K Synchro deck. So I think that's something that's really important to note. Also, the fact that just because a card has outs for it does not mean that it should be legal. So at the same time, even if Scythe isn't that big of a problem, why haven't we seen it get hit yet? And there's also going to be the argument of, well, there's a lot of outs and it's not that prevalent, but it always has a way to get prevalent again. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different cards like this and really how people can go from thinking about one card being really strong and how it might not be very strong at the end of the format. And so this is something too where we're seeing cards like Calamity that was really strong not too long ago, and then everyone realized that it really wasn't that good. So I think that's really important to at least make a mid-season and then look at the end of the season and really be able to compare the two. So I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if there is a card that you really want to see hit on the ban list, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Also, what card could you see coming back off the ban list? Because we're seeing quite a few of them now, so I'm definitely interested to hear what you have to say. So the first card that I want to see get banned here is going to be Halqifibrax. Now, this card is definitely something that we already saw get banned in the OCG, and I could see it getting banned in the TCG because of the fact that there's so many decks that just lean on Hulk. And this is something where even the newer Dragon deck, where they're playing like the Adventure Dragon, I think that that deck is only good because of Hulk, to be honest, because of the fact that you can go activate right, summon Griffin, and then you can go into your Hulk play, summon your Baron, summon Roxrose, get Basil, and then it's really cool too because of the fact that you can use Roxrose and the right token, go shooting Riser, dump Snow, and then go Pisty and keep extending, because that's something that is just a really easy Baron plus Borland. And then if you have Boot and Tracer, which you usually do through combo, then at that point you can go ahead and get to even like Savage, you can go Ruler, extend harder into things like IP. So even the Punk decks too that are just utilizing Hulk to go ahead and summon that Red Rose as well, which then you could argue to just go ahead and ban like Red Rose, but I think that it's just going to be very important that we just go ahead and ban a Hulk so we can start seeing different types of combos and different types of decks and seeing what those same decks can do without the help of Hulk. Because even the fact that Hulk can just tutor out things like TG on the next turn to be able to pop cards like Scythe, really insane, just because the card itself just does way too much. And this is really a card that I could see getting banned because of its utility in the format and just the amount of decks that just absolutely lean on this card. The next card I could see getting banned here is going to be Snow. This is a card that we saw get unbanned, and it's one of those cards that we really had a double take at, right? And we had to be like, Snow, because there's a lot of cards we're seeing get unbanned, and we just remember how good that they were, and we really want to know how good are they going to be. And let me tell you, Snow is absolutely broken. That card is fair and balanced. No, it's so good. The fact that when I was at my last tourney, and then you can go Snow effect, and they go Chain Called By, and you go Chain Snow, and it's really funny because my buddy mentioned this that happened the other day where he had to use Snow like twice, and his opponent was like, are you really going to go ahead and banish your entire graveyard? And they're like, yes, if it means booking your monster and you have to pass turn, absolutely. And it's really crazy that we just have a card in the game that can go ahead and do that. Because even in certain Dragon combos, like right now I'm playing Dragon, you can go ahead, summon Snow, go IP, like make Unicorn, spin something, and then go ahead and use Snow again and go ahead and book another card. Snow is just absolutely insane and definitely warrants to get rebanned. The last card that I have here is definitely something that I really want to know your opinion on and how you feel about this card. And every single card that is deemed at 0 or 3, because we have cards like Call by the Grave in the game, and I feel like this card is actually just absurd. I think this is something that definitely warrants a ban just because of how impactful it is. I think that I'd rather have this card at 3 or 0 100% of the time, because of the fact that at 1 it just feels really bad to lose to. At 3 it's something that you can realistically play around. At 0 it's something that I feel like is also fine because of the fact that the card is not only a defensive card, but it can be offensive as well. I think that's even crazier, especially if you're playing on something like Sky Striker and they go to use things like Kagari and they already have another one in the graveyard. You can go ahead and use it as like a pseudo imperm right at that point, go ahead and banishing out another Kagari. So like I think that's really cool as well. The card itself just has so much utility built into one card that I just think that it would be very impactful to go ahead and ban this, just so we can go ahead and see what the format looks like without it. For the limited cards here, the first card that I want to talk about is going to be Emergency Teleport. Now, I think Emergency Teleport is something that's really interesting to talk about here because of the fact that this card has been utilized so well in this format, especially back even when we had the Phantom Knight deck that was doing really well. This is just a card that just allows for so much, especially the fact that it can just summon a tuner from your deck, being that it can summon the Xiamen, or it can even summon things like the Ghost Ogre, which is still pretty crazy, honestly. If all you have is like an E-Telly, you set it, you summon like a Ghost Ogre on your opponent's turn, and then if they go even the next format into like Gigantic Exploit, then they have to deal with the fact that you have an Ogre, right? So I think that putting E-Telly back to 1 is going to be very nice, just because of the fact that the card is still very broken. It's still very good. And I definitely don't think this card needs to still be at 3, even with a Hulk ban. So the next card I have here is going to be Asheuna. Asheuna is a card that is just going to have to be the scapegoat for the Sword Soul deck, because Sword Soul runs into the very same problem that Tri Brigade does, where you can't really hit the Tri Brigade cards just because of the fact that if you hit any of them, you essentially kill the deck. And I feel like that's the same thing with Sword Soul because there aren't many of them. So this is something where you really want to make sure that you hit something that is not going to overall kill the theme of the deck, but it's still going to be impactful enough to really be able to put that deck back a bit and make it find other avenues to be able to play the game. So I definitely think that Asheuna is going to be the way to go about this. Still a very strong card, tutors to a lot of advantage, and allows you to extend your plays very well, even through things like Nibiru. So I think this is still very important to note here. So the next card I have is going to be Frightful Patchwork. So Patchwork is essentially Potagreed that just searches 2 cards. It's pretty crazy. The ability to get into Poly is so much pressure on your opponent, especially if you have Branded Lost, because then you almost have to negate Poly, even though you want to negate things like Branded Fusion, just because of the fact that you have the inevitable Guardian Chimera coming down, which is pretty crazy. And honestly, that is just, it applies so much to the board that you just have to think about, and you have to really say, you know, like, do I really want my board to get blown out here, or should I just go ahead and Ash this? And it's always like a feels bad Ash too, because you already know that you have to Ash the Branded Fusion. So I could definitely see things like Patchwork going to 1, just because you have to hit the branded deck in some capacity, and I think that this is just the proper way to go about it. The next card I have here is going to be Blaster. Blaster isn't really going to do anything. This is a card that we've just seen in the ban list, and this is something that it's not Tidal, it's not Redox, especially Tidal with Enchantress Legal, there's no way. So definitely going ahead and dealing with the Blaster off of the list, I think is fine. It is another card, I guess, for Salad. It's not going to do anything. I think it's fine. The next card here is going to be Zenmaity. Definitely just go ahead and bring this back. If you're worried about it being legal, just ban the Hunter. I think that's fine. I just want to see what the carrier can do in the format. A lot of people have already anticipated this. I think that's still a very good call, and it's something that we could definitely see coming back into the format. Last but not least here, we do have Spellbook Judgment. I think this card is still very important to talk about because of the fact that we're seeing a lot of very crazy cards coming off the ban list, even like Snow, that I do think that there's a possibility that even if it's just for one format, we could definitely see Spellbook Judgment coming back. We've already seen this card have a big price spike on TCG Player as well, and I think that there's a lot of people right now who are thinking that this does have a lot of potential for coming back, and I could see it happening, at least for a format. So as for the 2-ofs now, we do have the right package. I think that putting these at 2 and 2 is fine. I did hear an argument for putting Enchantress at 1, so you can't just keep recurring right. I think that's fine too if they did choose to go ahead and just limit the Enchantress, because you still have your 3 copies of Armistier, but you only have the one way to go ahead and just banish an Enchantress and then get to the Armistier, and then you also have less things to search off of your Fateful. So I think that would be a very fair hit, but I do think seeing them at 2 and 2 is going to be very optimal, very fine. As for my last two of here is going to be Branded Opening. I think this is fine because Patchwork is a very nice hit to Despia, but also just a light tap on Branded Opening 2 is fine, just because of the fact that it does play around things like Valor, and it is something that just tutors out another free monster, another way to Eluber. So just a very light hit on that, and then also just hitting the Patchwork, because that card alone is just super nuts, but you need some kind of consistency hit in some way, shape, or form to Despia. So as for the Unlimits, I do think that we could be seeing Sekka's Light 2-3. I think this is a card that got banned just because of things like Block Dragon, but that's not legal anymore, and I think that this is definitely going to be fine. Having all monsters in the deck is definitely going to be something really tough to deal with, especially with all the Mystic Mine running around in the format. The second that we see Sekka's Light hit the board and then you have Mystic Mine in your hand or your deck, you already know that you're about to be winning that game if that card resolves. So I do think that Sekka's Light is something that we could see coming back. I think that it'd be a really cool idea for different Monster Mash decks to really see what they can do. I don't think this card's going to be a problem. I don't think it will at all. I could see it coming back to 3. And then last but not least, Spiral Resort. We have no master plan. Where is our Spiral Resort to 3? I think this is fine, especially because if you're not putting Quick Fix to more than 1, yes, we have 3 drone, but I don't really see the deck doing much, maybe just like tough control. But at that point, I think that would still just be something that's just a cool deck that you can run from time to time. It'd be more of like a cheese deck still, but I think that it'd still be really cool to see. Definitely let me know down in the comments below what you think about today's video though, and what you think could happen, because I feel like there's just so much discussion that happens with the ban list that I really like to be able to compare between now and the end of the season, just so we can see what cards really changed over the format and if they were still a problem by the end. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful night. I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.